I have the privilege here of introducing one of Texas's most beloved television stars. Chet Garner is the host, creator, executive producer, and producer of the Daytripper. Many of you have seen this on PBS. It is picked up nationally. It's won numerous Lone Star Emmy Awards. It's a fantastic show. It's super fun. If you have kids like I do, it's a family-friendly show. It's super fun. He gets to see all sorts of things around the state of Texas. As one reviewer put it, Chet brings the treasures of Texas into your home. And I think that's very true. We're very blessed to have Chet here. He's a big believer that adventure is closer than you realize, and he's here to share some of his stories. Come on up, Chet.
That's awesome. Woohoo! Hey, thank you. Thanks, man.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You got it.
I got it. I'm mic'd up. How's everybody doing? All right. So my job is to keep you from falling asleep after you just ingested a giant piece of steak, which, I think we can do it. We're gonna have a whole lot of fun. So my name is Chet Garner. I make a television show called The Daytripper. Is anyone seen it before? Okay, all right. So we have some people in here, and y'all know I'm not the country reporter, right? Okay, just checking. Okay, so. Texas is very, very big. And so before I get too deep into what I want to talk to you guys about, I like to do a little poll just so I understand my audience a little more and can appropriately adjust on the fly the message that I'm going to give you guys. And so here's how it works. I'm going to show y'all two different pictures. If you prefer the one on the left, point left. If you prefer the one on the right, point right. And in my highly mathematical brain, I will count every single one of y'all and adjust accordingly. Okay, here it is. I think I know how some of these are going to go, but I'm always surprised. Are y'all more big city people or country folk? What do we do? Everybody's got to vote. Big city folk, country folk. All right, we're pretty split on that one. All right, if you got to take a vacation, you got to go to the beach or the mountains? Beach or mountains? Okay. And these are both pictures of Texas, right? People often are surprised. That one on the left is Big Bend. All right, okay. Now, I think I know this one. You're gonna go swimming. We going natural source or we going chlorinated pool? All right, yeah, that's the one I figured I knew the answer to. All right, they get harder. You got one last meal before you die. We got, sir, you cannot just point like this. All right. What's your road trip playlist? Two Texas icons here. I think we're 85% Willie, but there's some Queen Bee fans out there. Okay. Cowboy, we'll start some fights. I know, it's a little too hard. All right, I even start crying. Here, let's really start some fights. Oh, wait, sorry. No, that's the vote. They're bad slide. I'll get guns up. Thanks, sir. I think you're alone on that, but all right. I think we're all like honorary Texas Tech fans now that the Cowboys are out of the playoffs. Are we all like just cheering for Patrick Mahomes now? We don't care about the Chiefs winning. We're just cheering for Patrick Mahomes. At least I am. That's me right now. All right. Okay, so I learned a little bit about y'all. I think I'm going to take some time now and tell y'all a little bit about myself. So I am the Daytripper. We make a Texas travel show showing people all they can eat, see, and do if they're in any random town in Texas, because I believe no matter where you go, every place has a story to tell. And I don't care if it's a big city, a one stoplight town, or in a lot of cases, no stoplight towns. We've gone to towns and made 30-minute episodes about all you can do in the kind of towns, they call them blink towns. If you blink, you'll miss it. And we've made 30-minute episodes about all you can see and do if you start flipping rocks and looking and see what's underneath them. Because I really do believe that every place has a story to tell. Here's one of my most exciting places I went. I never expected to get as excited at this. But Texans have been storytellers for a long time. In fact, there's a place in West Texas that they call the oldest book in North America. Anybody know what I'm talking about? It's a picture of it here. It's the Cave of the White Shaman outside of Comstock. So If you want to study cave art, there's two places you go in the world. One's in France, and the other is the Trans-Pecos art that's found along the Texas-Rio Grande border. All right, Tex-Mexico border out there by Comstock. And this is called The Cave of the White Shaman, the oldest book in North America, and no one has any idea what it means. So that makes it double exciting. We think that white figure is the shaman. There's a weird caterpillar thing, like the thing that ate Reba McEntire and Tremors coming down from the sky. And then a bunch of other weird stuff. Scientists and archaeologists are all studying this thing, trying to figure it out. And here's what a thing that I want to impress upon y'all, if anything. When we think of storytelling, when we think of cave paintings or what is a storyteller, we often have this iconic idea of what it is in our head, and it has something to do with like a cowboy or a grandpa sitting around a campfire with a guitar, singing songs and telling yarns and telling stories. And then if we want to expand it out from that, like who are the great storytellers of our era? Here's a few of them. And so these people have just been built into our psyche that those are storytellers. But there's a truth that's even bigger than that. It's that we're all storytellers. Some of us just don't know it yet. And this is certainly true of me. And people would look at me and go, yeah, Chet, you're a storyteller. But have you ever thought, truthfully, and I don't care what kind of job you're in, how many stories you've told the people even today? I mean, you met someone new, they say, where are you from? Where are you from? You just told them a story. They ask, hey, what do you do for a living? Bam, you're going to tell them another story. And so we go through life telling one story after another to people all the time, but some of us just don't realize how connected storytelling is to our everyday life. The stories we tell make a huge difference. It's the stories we tell other people, the stories we tell ourselves. I'll just give you an example of something that I had to change in my life once I realized how much impact the stories we tell make. So I started off, doing this job, right? And I've got young kids, so I have to leave my house to go do this job because it's really hard to edit a television show with a 2-year-old pulling on your leg. And so, and I had a few different ages. I got 5 kids now. But in early days, they would say, Dad, why are you leaving? Why are you leaving? I want you to stay here and play with me. And I would say, well, Dad's got a job. I got to go make money. And, whatever you tell our kids, y'all are expensive and someone's got to pay for college, It's like, well, okay, all right, back up. What story was I telling my kids at that moment? And some of y'all might be guilty of telling the same story. So what was I telling my kids? I was telling them that the things I do outside the home are all about money. And the money is what's driving me to separate myself from you every day. And I was like, man, what kind of impression is that making on a kid that their dad leaves because he's out there chasing money? So I said, whoa, I got to reframe this thing. So I started telling my kids, guess what? Listen, I have been given special talents by God, and you have too, and I've got to go and offer my talents to the world as a form of work, and work is good, and someday you'll be able to offer your talents to the world as well, outside your home or in your home, whatever. But that's why I'm called away. It's not just to go and pursue money. It's to offer my talents to the world. And, whatever, mine are on TV. Other people have amazing talents with spreadsheets. I don't care what it is that you're good at. But that is, you're shuddering. I'm the same. Okay, so let's just think a little bit about all the stories we tell every day in and out. And this becomes especially true when we start to think about the stories we tell people around the issues that are important to us. Namely, which in this crowd, water, right? So how do you convince people to care about it? Is it facts, figures, or is it stories? And so, humor me if you will. I'm going to tell y'all the story of how I started to do what I do, and share with y'all a little bit of my path, my wandering, meandering path into the Daytripper. So I am a native Texan, born and raised. I was born in Comanche, Texas. Anybody else? I know we got at least one Comanche folk here, and the rest of y'all have no idea where it is. So I have to put a star on it here to show y'all, because, poor Comanche has no idea where it is in the state of Texas. It's not quite hill country. We're not panhandle. We're not really the plains. Like, what are we? I don't know. It's Comanche. Same with Brownwood. It's that region of Texas. We got to figure out what it is and then brand it. Well, I grew up there, and my dad was a physician. And I remember this very clearly. After my kindergarten year, he set all the kids down on the couch, and he said, kids, we have to move. I've got to take a job transfer, but I'm going to give you all the choice. I want y'all's input. Y'all want to move to the mountains, or do you want to move to the beach? And we were little kids. We said, the beach, the beach, the beach. Perfect. He said, all right. And then he moved us to Port Arthur, Texas. Yeah. You're from Port Arthur. Okay. All right. So we grew up in the swamps of Port Arthur, no beach in sight, just all the bad parts of the beach, like the mosquitoes and the humidity and all that, without the actual beach. And so we were this one little contingent in Southeast Texas. All the rest of my family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, all that, were in the Stephenville, Hamilton area. And so that meant every holiday we were going to load the family Suburban up and take it cross-country to go and visit my relatives. Well, at that stage in the 80s, there was really only one way you moved a whole bunch of kids and the Christmas presents and the luggage cross-country. You just get a big old car, you rip out the back seat, put the luggage in, and then put a mattress on top of it. Did y'all travel by mattress as kids? Yes. Before we cared about the health and safety of children as a society, but it was fun. And no seatbelts. No, there's no seatbelts on a mattress. I mean, you're like, and so it never failed that we'd be on some back road, and I'd be on this mattress, right, shoved in there with my 3 siblings, elbowing each other, trying to read, staring out about a 2 inches of window that you had, worried that if you fell asleep, the sagging headliner would asphyxiate you and you wouldn't make it to Stephenville. And so, but it never failed. I'd be in some state of consciousness, and all of a sudden, I would go from the back of the Suburban to the front of the Suburban as my dad whipped around on some distant country back road to look at what I called as a little kid, tombstones of death. These things. There's nothing more miserable for a childhood than Texas historic markers. And we did this all the time. I mean, there were markers everywhere. And someone needs to talk to TxDOT because those dumb brown signs say historic marker that way, but they don't say how far that way. And so, we'd be driving for I don't even know how long, and I'd have to listen to my dad sort of try to kind of recount why we were looking at the most important fence post in Texas history or something like that, or how Davy Crockett peed here on the way to the Alamo, whatever it was. And so, but for all the misery it caused me as a child, I can now proudly say that I'm the kind of parent that does this exact same thing to my children, because the misery must continue, must be passed down. But these sort of things made an impression on me as a young child. And we were a camping family. I was a Boy Scout. We were a Boy Scout family. We traveled a lot all over the state of Texas. And so I was very fortunate to see a lot of Texas as a young child. I didn't leave the state for college. I went to the University of Texas. I think this was Players, wasn't it? Wasn't Players Burgers right where we're standing? Moment of silence for Players Burgers, please. And I mean, we stayed in the dorm just down the road. I majored in radio, television, film, so I learned how to keep it in focus and push record and all of that stuff. And then I did what all film majors do. I went to law school, I went to Baylor Law. Sick 'em Bears. I'm a proud Baylor Bear as well. I'm sure there's some out there. And, but during this time, college, I mean, you get all this great time off of work. I mean, work was school at that point. And we thought 15 hours a week was like, oh man, my schedule is packed. My gosh, if I could slap myself in the face. Just you wait, son. But we get, you get a month off during Christmas, you get all this time off during summer. And so I thought as a naive 20-something or whatever that, Texas, oh man, I've been there, done that. And so I took every opportunity I could to go out and see the world. Went to some, this is just some photos. This is Venice, St. Mark's Square. That's Rome, Colosseum. This is some national parks in California. This is Turkey, the Hagia Sophia. And then this is Thailand, where for a few bucks you can spoon chimpanzees. If you're ever in Thailand, make sure you keep a couple extra bucks in your pocket. And so did all that stuff. And then the thing happened to me that happens to people when they graduate from school. I had to get the JOB. So I went from looking at things like this to this was the view from my law office window. That's it. There's nothing else coming up. It's a nice creamy taupe. And so I was, as someone who loves to travel, loves new experiences, I was getting pretty stir crazy stuck in my law office billing the hours away. And so I thought, man, I'm going to go crazy or I have to travel somehow. And when you're at the bottom of a totem pole of an international law firm, you don't exactly get many weeks off to go and gallivant across Europe. So I thought, gosh, I guess I'm just going to have to go back and start taking small trips. I remember some places from my childhood. Let's go back and see them. And so I went from being the world traveler to the Texas traveler. And I saw some things like this. Anybody know what that is? Shout it out. Enchanted Rock. Enchanted Rock, right? Enchanted Rock, between Fredericksburg and Llano, one of the most beautiful natural rock structures on Earth, right? It's technically called a batholith. I'm sure there's some geology nerds in here. All right, yeah. Part of the Llano uplift, which is very important. And it's this big dome. It's like God took a basketball, chopped it in half, and plopped it in the hill country, and you can go and hike it. And I was like, I'd seen it as a 4-year-old, and now I'm a 20-something going, well, man, now I've got perspective to appreciate this. This is amazing. I found out that Texas has beaches that don't require a can of paint thinner to get the tar off your feet when you go visit them. And so we went and explored our coast. This is me after going through some of the show caves we have in Texas. So I'm covered in what I thought was mud. We did a little wild cave tour. And then afterwards, the guy was like, hey, did you like it? I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty muddy, though. He's like, ha ha, yeah. Like, what? It's mud. He's like, oh, no, friend. That is bat guano. But it's 10,000 years old, so you don't have anything to worry about. I'm like, okay. And then here's me bonding with some of the local wildlife, across Texas. And so it occurred to me that, man, I was having more fun doing stuff in my own backyard than I had paying, $1,000 or more for a plane ticket somewhere to go overseas to do something someone else tells you have to do before you die, right? The people were nicer. The food was better. Not all the food, but most of it. Like the people. It was wonderful, and I was like, and I felt sort of a spiritual connection to Texas as being the sort of the land that I grew up in, and I felt guilty for not knowing more about it. And so I thought, man, other people need to know about all the wonderful things there are to do in Texas, because I'd come back to the law firm and try to explain to them how I'd sat in a beer garden and around guys speaking nothing but German and shared a beer with all these old German dudes that I couldn't understand in Fredericksburg. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? Or, saw a swimming hole that I had never even heard of or whatever. And it wasn't that people didn't want adventure. It's that they didn't realize how close it was. People were taking vacations, sometimes elaborate vacations, to go somewhere fancy overseas to do something that literally they could have done an hour from their house. I don't have this slide in here, but this past weekend I took my 10-year-old daughter, she'll turn 10 this week, on a one-on-one vacation. So my wife and I, well, 2-on-1, took her because, 5 kids, you don't get a lot of alone time. So we do this a little tradition. And I was in McGregor, Texas, and we ate dinner with giraffes. And they were like, there's only 2 places you can do this in the world, Chet. I'm like, where? They're like, McGregor and Africa. I was like, for real. It's called Blue Hills Ranch. That's a plug for them. It was a fantastic time. And so I thought, man, there's all this great stuff. I want to share it. I want to be the person carrying these stories and hopefully inspiring people to go out and travel. And we still have not even scratched the surface much on all the different things you could do in Texas. People ask, how long are you going to make the show? I'm like, well, until someone's got to come on set and put my food through a blender, and I can only go to places that a rascal can reach, but that'll be fine. And so I've had the privilege of teaching people all about Texas. I jokingly say I make a television show to inspire people to watch less TV. That's the whole goal. But we're gonna play a game. And so I want to now see what y'all already know about Texas, okay? So here's what we're going to do. I need everyone to stand up. Everyone, stand up. We're all playing. All right. So here's how this is going to work. It's the Daytripper quiz show. It's the honor system. I'm going to put a question up there on the board. Do not say the answer out loud until I count to 3, all right? At that point, we're all going to say it at once, and the reason for that is twofold. It's honor system. That way we know if you got it right or not. And then second, we can laugh at you if you got it wrong, okay? So they start fairly easy, but they do get harder. Okay, don't say the answer out loud until I count to 3. I'll read it, and then I count to 3. What is the official flower of Texas? Ready? 1, 2, 3. It's the bluebonnet. Very good. All right, sit down if you got it wrong. No one's actually supposed to get that one wrong. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's all right. They're from California, aren't they? I get it. I get it. Okay, here we go. I'll read it, and then I'll count to 3. What is the official bird of the state of Texas? Ready? 1, 2, 3. It's the mockingbird. Very good. All right, sit down if you got it wrong. Oh, I say, this is what you're playing for. An exclusive Daytripper Yeti mug. Okay. Don't say it till I count to 3. What is the official tree of the state of Texas? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Pecan. The pecan tree. Very good. All right, sit down if you got it wrong. All right. Now, I need everybody to raise their right hand who's still standing up. Raise your right hand. Give yourself a pat on the back because you made it to round 2, which isn't for a few slides. And now y'all sit down. You'll see them. Well, breaking this up, y'all have to stand up and sit down a lot. This is how I keep y'all awake. I told y'all this was my job. But only the people who made it to round 2 get to stand back up. The rest are in your relish to your seat of shame. All right. So here's one of my favorite quotes, speaking of stories. Thanks to the interstate highway system, it is now possible to travel across the country from coast to coast without seeing anything. Anybody know who said that? Charles Kuralt, who was a pioneer in the industry that I do, but it's totally true. You have to sort of get off the highway to find the adventure that you're looking for. And so for the next bit of my speech, I want to talk to you all about the 3 buckets that I sort of see from Texas. I want to, one, hopefully give you all some ideas of the stories that are all around us here in Texas. Maybe give you all some ideas to go on day trips as well. And so culture, outdoors, and food. The culture of Texas is an interesting thing. And when people outside our state think of the culture of Texas, this is probably the first thing that comes to mind. It's one of the top tourist destinations in the world. Of course, it is the Alamo. But did you know that the Alamo is one of 5 missions in San Antonio, right? Including this one, which is the largest mission in North America, Mission San Jose. And so all 5 of these missions, Alamo included, were connected by one thing, water, right? And so anytime you want to talk about the culture of Texas, especially in the early days, you're talking about the water of Texas. And so much of our culture now is dependent on water. You think about all the cool things we could do. Have you ever tried to explain to someone from Europe what tubing is? Try it. Next time you meet someone from Europe, try to explain it. Yeah. So it's a tire, the inner part of a tire, and you float on it? Sounds glorious. But it's true. They're all connected by water. There's some other missions. These are some things in cultural. Like I said, I'm just going to plant some seeds, kind of help you all appreciate the entire culture of Texas and leave with some ideas. Anybody recognize this mission? Technically a fort. This is Presidio La Bahia, Goliad, right? So this is where the Goliad massacre happened. And a lot of people don't know that on the battlefield of San Jacinto, the Texans were screaming, "Remember the Alamo" and "Remember Goliad," just as loud, because Texas lost about 180 men in the Alamo, and about 340 men who were held as prisoners were taken outside of those walls and inside the walls and shot on Palm Sunday in 1836. So it's a very heavy place to go. It's an important place to go. And for a very reasonable fee, you can spend the night there by yourself. You think I'm lying? I'm not lying. It's now a little small Airbnb where you stay in the officers' quarters. They give you the keys and they leave. And, well, you're not totally alone, right? So there's all kinds of stories about that place, of course. We had one of the best night's sleep of our lives, the whole crew. We all slept like babies. We rented the room, the officers' quarters, which has like old, like a lot of little beds, sort of a couch and some different bedrooms. So we all spread out, all slept like babies. That's not true of another historic fort that we stayed in San Angelo. And this one, I did have to stay out alone because when we finished filming at about 11 p.m., my crew, I looked at them and was like, all right, guys, there's 4 bedrooms. Where do y'all want to go? And they were like, yeah, right. We're going to Best Western. Peace out. Like, come on. You're not going to take a chance to stay in an old 1800s fort? This might be the only chance you ever get to do it in your life. And they're like, yeah, Chet, you heard the little story of the dead girl who runs up and down the stairs and all that? I was like, come on. Anyway, probably the worst decision of my life. Because I stayed up all night listening to some dishes being thrown in the kitchen and cabinets being slammed and did not go to investigate because that's how you get murdered in horror movies. I just locked the door and cried on my bed. And then I realized, wait, ghosts can go through doors. I have to open the door so I can get out faster. It was awful. I just waited until the sun came up and then I ran away as fast as I could. Here's one, speaking of, stopping at places you never expect. So who's visited the painted churches of Texas? All right, not that many of y'all. So these are these little churches that are around the Schulenburg area. We're talking east of San Antonio. They were built by the German and Czech settlers who moved to the area in the late 1800s. And if you drove by it, you'd go, yeah, it's a little church. I've seen 100 of those, but not these. All right, because if you get out and you go inside, this is what they look like on the inside. So you want to talk about rivaling the cathedrals of Europe? They do. They're beautiful. So never judge a church by its exterior when you're out, in the Czech and German country. This one's a church at High Hill, if you want to mark it down. And speaking of never knowing what something is based on the exterior, we were in Sulphur Springs, Texas. We saw these glass cubes sitting outside the courthouse. And you might think like, oh, there's some like modern art or something about a reflection. It's weird. I don't know, government and stuff. And then if you stay there long enough, you'll hear the toilet flush because these are actually outdoor potties. But the kicker on it is they're two-way mirrors. So the outside can't see in, but on the inside you have a 360-degree view of the courthouse lawn. It's awesome. It's great. So you can't tell, that is a wall behind me. That is a straight wall. And you want to talk about how awkward it is when you're doing what you do on a toilet and a mom passes by with a stroller like inches from you. You're like, ah! Now you can't see in. I've gone and tested. It's a light differential. You can't see in. But the locals are notorious for just going over and going, just to screw with the tourists. So Texas is weird. We have all these wonderful stories everywhere. This is one of my favorites at a courthouse in Waxahachie. And I wish I had more time to explain it more, but there was a stonemason who got hired to come in from out of town. And as he was doing the elaborate sculptures they needed, he fell in love with a local girl. He was so enamored with her beauty that he started to carve her into the facade of the courthouse. Isn't she beautiful? Well, he got about halfway done and she dumped him. And well, his opinion of her goes from, let's say, a little less angelic to a little more demonic as you walk around the courthouse. It's true. All right, Daytripper quiz show continues. If you're in round 2, stand back up. Stand back up. If you're not, I mentioned seed of shame. Liz. All right. Okay. Don't say it till I count to 3. What is the official song of Texas? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Texas, our Texas, all hail the mighty state. Oh, that was a bloodletting. That was a bloodbath. All right, good job. You know, one of my favorite things is when Aggies think our state song is Eyes of Texas. And there were some in this room. You'll know who you are. I don't have to call you out. That's just UT school song. All right. What is the official sport of the state of Texas? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Rodeo. He knew. Who's left? Well, she knew. Wow, we got a couple playing over there. We got a few. Y'all give these people a round of applause. All right. Y'all can sit down now. Round 3 will be in a little bit. All right, let's talk about food. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to rush through some of these stories. Here's my Texas food pyramid. If anybody has pull at the legislature, they're in session right now. So go ahead and see if we can get this passed in the state of Texas. You know, stories relate to everything. Stories relate to our history. Stories relate to the current state of Texas. And some of my favorite stories relate to food. And one thing I love more than the food itself sometimes is the story behind the food. We're looking at a delicious looking plate of Tex-Mex enchiladas. Now, Texas will claim that they invented everything. That we invented the hamburger, we invented pizza, we invented spaghetti, we invented everything. But this is one that absolutely we invented. Probably no surprises, Tex-Mex, right? But the story of how Tex-Mex came about is fascinating. So it all goes back to the chili queens of San Antonio. These were Mexican women who around dusk would flood into the plazas. They would set up these beautiful elaborate banquet tables and make a big old pot of chili con carne. And they would stay out there till sometimes 2, 4 a.m., serving anybody and everybody at these beautiful banquet tables of chili with chili con carne. So they were actually around long enough. There are some photos of the chili queens of San Antonio. And so Tex-Mex originated on the streets of San Antonio with these chili queens. They'd serve you a bowl of red, but they would also start to put it on top of stuff. So they'd put it on top of tamales. They would put it on top of rice. They would put it on top of noodles. Later, they began to put it on top of enchiladas, but that wasn't the original. So have you ever been to a Tex-Mex restaurant? You see spaghetti mexicana on the menu, and you think some weird love child of Italy got done? That's actually super authentic because chili con carne is the telltale sign of whether or not you're eating Tex-Mex or just Mexican food. So y'all appreciate the next plate of Tex-Mex you dive into. Now, we didn't invent the steak, sadly, but we did invent the Texified steak. This is the Big Texan Steak Ranch in Amarillo, where they are giving away free 72-ounce steaks. Anybody know the catch? If you can eat it in an hour, right? And you don't just have to eat the steak, you got to eat the baked potato and the salad and the shrimp cocktail and all the stuff. Needless to say, I failed miserably trying it. I felt like Sigourney Weaver on Alien, where, that thing popped out of her stomach and wanted to kill her. Actually, it didn't happen to her. And Reba didn't die in Tremors either, but who cares? But there's so many other foods that we have here in Texas. And Texas is so big, so diverse, so rich in culture that influences food, right? There are things that you can only find in these little tiny pockets of Texas. So I grew up in Southeast Texas. All the time we would go and eat something called barbecue crabs. Anybody ever had barbecue crabs? They look like this, and they're not barbecued. They're deep fried blue crabs, but they're tossed in a zesty seasoning. And when I got to UT, I started going out looking for barbecue crabs. Everybody was like, "Where the heck are you from, son? We don't barbecue crabs, we barbecue beef." I'm like, sorry, I grew up in a weird part of Texas. You can only get barbecue crabs in Texas in Jefferson County. I've looked everywhere. They don't exist outside of Jefferson County. And here's another little thing. I went to Brownsville, Texas, and I ate at the last authentic commercial barbacoa restaurant in America. It's called Veda's Barbecue. They make barbacoa the traditional way. And the reason they're the only one left is because the way they cook it is terribly against health code. But they're grandfathered in. So you wrap a whole cow head in foil and you put it in a hole in the ground. And it's not that it's unsanitary, it's just that it's a literal gateway to Hades in the ground. that anyone could fall into. And so you cook it on this wood, wrapped in foil. I was watching Mondo, the owner, do it. We took the cow head out. We went into the kitchen. He unwrapped it in foil, and he said, Chet, you're lucky. He goes, the ojo is still there. I said, Mondo, what are you talking about? He goes, oh man, have you ever had an ojo? I was like, oh no, Mondo, I have not. And so he took it out, plopped it out of the eye cavity, if that's what they call it, eye socket, put it on a tortilla, put a little salsa on it, and handed it to me. He said, let's go, amigo. So I took a bite, and it was even worse than it sounds. I expected it to sort of pop like a water balloon. It didn't. It was just sort of like a greasy bit of fat. And anyway, if you go down to Brownsville and you're lucky, you might get an ojo for lunch. But I've realized I realized this early on. Yeah, the food is great. Sometimes the stories of the people who make the food are more motivational for people. And you want to talk about, let me tell you a story that helps you see something I see, and then maybe be motivated to action, whatever that was. And we sort of stumbled into this one accidentally. We went to a pizza place. Previously, I'd never really interviewed owners, we didn't know what we were doing the first season. And so we went to a place called Brewster's Pizza in Wimberley, and we told the story of how they make pizza, but more fascinating, we told the story of the owners who ran the pizza joint. And I have never seen fans react more to a segment that we had ever done than this one, and that opened my eyes up to how important it was. Because they didn't have any employees at this pizza joint. It was the husband and wife and their 13 kids that ran it. Absolutely fascinating. Bruce Colley on the right was a monster of a man. He had 2 Super Bowl rings blocking for Joe Montana and the 49ers. So if you asked him nicely, he'd pull him out from the bar and let you put them on. It sort of fit me like bracelets, really. So here we go. Stand back up. Let's go. Daytripper quiz show. If you're still in the game, and there's not many of y'all. All right. We're talking about food. What is the official dish of the state of Texas? 1, 2, 3. Chili con carne. That's right. It's chili. It's chili. All right, raise your hand if you're still in it. 1, 2, 3. Is that it? Yeah. All right. Here we go. We'll keep going. What is the official snack of Texas? All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Fritos, a good guess. It is chips and salsa. No, y'all didn't get it? All right, y'all can stand back up, the 3 of y'all, because that took everybody down. All right. No one say it. No one give them hints till they say it out loud. Official fruit. 1, 2, 3. Ruby red grapefruit. You got it? No, he got it. Well done. All right. There's your. Make sure you get that before you leave. All right, let's talk about outdoors in the few minutes that I have left, and I'm going to go just a touch over time, but this is super important because I want y'all to understand, especially in the industry that y'all are in, how important stories are as far as motivating people to appreciate the outdoors, to care about it. And so the outdoors are in Texas. I mean, they say Texas is like a whole other state. We're like 5 other states, right? Because we have everything from mountains to piney woods. It is the crossroads where the south turns into the west. And we have just so much diversity. Second largest canyon in America. We have 2 national parks. We were supposed to have a 3rd national park. Anybody know this story? We were supposed to have a 3rd national park. And it was in the 1970s. Federal government decided we're going to have a 3rd national park. All the biologists, the ecologists, they all decided we are getting a 3rd national park in Texas. Well, the problem with it was in East Texas. And when the federal government showed up to take people's land, they were met with this sound. No, you're not. And so the federal government had to come up with a whole other designation in order to allow this area to be protected. Anybody know what I'm talking about? The Big Thicket. The Big Thicket. They came up with a designation called a preserve, which allows it to be protected like a park, but will allow all the historic uses like hunting, fishing, and recreation to continue like they have historically. Because that's what the East Texans were worried. They were worried about losing their right to go squirrel hunt on the land. That's weird to other people, not to people in East Texas. The squirrel hunting is great. Man, I wish I had time. I'm going to have to rush through this one. Animals are Texans too. I took a boat ride with people from all over the world to see the largest bird in North America. There's only 180 of them left that are repopulating in the wild. Not sandhill cranes, the whooping cranes. Excuse me. And just to give you an idea how tall these are, there's them next to some cows. All right? Literally, people from China and Germany were on that boat with me because they wanted to see whooping cranes. Most people have no idea the whooping cranes even exist, and there's people from across the world who will jump a continent to see these birds. They're beautiful, 8-foot wingspan, and they all take to flight at the same time as a family. It's a beautiful thing to see. 367 miles of coastline, including the longest undeveloped barrier island in the world, North Padre Island. I met someone who helps protect that earlier. We have swimming holes in West Texas that have 25 feet more visibility than the Caribbean Ocean. You know, people think swimming holes in Texas, they have some idea of muddy-bottomed, East Texas lakes or something like that. But literally the definition of an oasis in the desert, Balmorhea. Who swam in San Solomon Springs and Balmorhea? It should be on everyone's bucket list. And when you tell people that this thing exists, man, they start to itch. They're ready to get in the car and go. But see, our stories often that we tell about water have to deal with law and rights and farmers, and that's all important. And the mussels, zebra mussels, and all these kind of like fatalistic things of how it's all going down the toilet. And those things often, while it can work to a certain degree, I believe what works more are the positive stories about how important it is to the culture, how it's so ingrained with everything that we've done since the beginning, right? Since the very beginning, before the settlers even arrived, the Comanches' lives were based around following water down the Comanche Trail. Anyway, so let's cruise through. There's a place that I call the Caribbean in the Pines. In Huntsville, Texas, there's an old brick pit that's full of water, and that water is as turquoise as the Caribbean Ocean. Anybody ever heard of the Blue Lagoon? Stunning, and you wouldn't expect it, right there in the middle of the piney woods. The most pristine river in the southwest United States runs just outside of Del Rio into Lake Amistad. We went there and did a 2-day journey down the Devil's River. You want to talk about appreciating water in a new way, seeing how much life depends upon that one little ribbon of blue turquoise, and it is this clear. And the reason it's the most pristine river is because there ain't nothing built around it out there. Very few houses, an absolutely stunning place. And then this is one that we recently did. I say into the unknown abyss. Who here's been to Jacob's Well? So that's really close to us. It is a natural spring that flows up out of this cavern in the ground. And you stand above it like you're going to jump in, and you feel like you're jumping into that thing on Star Wars, the Sarlacc pit, right? I've got a lot of movie references in it today. And so we told this story. It aired in our swimming hole episode, went all over the country. And this is talking about motivating people. We talked about the history of the springs, the animals that live in the springs, the important, ecology, why they only open at certain months out of the year so that they can make sure it's regenerated, make sure it's healthy. And I feel like it really moved the needle on getting people to care about the water. And y'all know this past summer, for the 4th time in recorded history, this is what Jacob's Well looked like, right? So people understood the story of Jacob's Well. They understood it in a new way. And then when they saw it dry up, they thought, well, we can't let that happen. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Is this me watering my yard every hour of the day? People started to care about it because they had heard a story about it. This is something that we did recently just to sort of highlight how important water conservation is. And here's one of my favorite sayings. And it's a Native American proverb. It says, "Tell me the facts and I'll learn. Tell me the truth and I'll believe. But tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever." And I just want to remind y'all, I'll leave you with where I started. Remember, if you take anything away, we are all storytellers. Some of us just don't know it yet. Thank y'all very much for listening.